Hello, I'm Brandon House, and welcome to the Worldview Weekend Hour. My guest tonight is Costi Hinn. Maybe that last name is familiar to you. Yes, his uncle is Benny Hinn. Tonight you'll hear the testimony of Costi Hinn, and you'll hear a warning about the false teaching of the Word of Faith. Costi, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Brandon. Thank you.
Costi was with us on radio today, and he then, the last 2 days, today and yesterday, has set for 12 30-minute television programs with Justin Peters. Justin is the one that introduced us, although Justin and I just met you yesterday for the first time in person. We've talked on the phone a lot, and you were a guest on his radio show. But this is our first time to spend time with you, and I told you on the radio, it's as though we've known each other for years. I mean, we just have that common bond around truth, around conviction, but we've also had just a lot of fun laughing and just enjoying each other like we've known each other for years, but we've only known each other now about 2 days.
Yeah, we have. I've enjoyed it a lot. You guys are awesome.
Well, we appreciate your taking the time. He is a pastor in California. He pastors a Reformed church. He's gone from the Word of Faith to the seeker-sensitive church model, and then a few years ago, that church rejected the seeker-sensitive model and went to expository Bible teaching. Folks, we're not going to get to everything tonight, okay? We're only going to be able to get to, well, about 58 minutes worth. The rest of it, you're going to have to tune into Justin Peters' program. And, of course, that's at WVWTV.com, his television broadcast, to hear 12 30-minute programs. So he's spent a lot of time in this TV studio the last few days, but we wanted to grab him for an hour of the Worldview Weekend program. Also, to let you know about these 12 programs he has recorded with Justin Peters. Well, let's start out with your testimony and tell our listening audience your testimony, and then we'll move into some other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, grew up, like you know, Word of Faith movement, prosperity gospel, in every sense of those terms. I lived it, enjoyed it, even did a little bit of it myself as far as telling my friends, you know, about God's power and all the wonderful things that we had and would teach. And there came a point, I'll kind of get to where things started to turn and get really more towards my conversion. I was in high school and it all began to crumble. Not so much my life in the theology and I began to go get converted. It began to crumble in that my little world that was so sheltered and so perfect was suddenly being penetrated by people who would make fun of my uncle. I was being bullied at school. People would say things like, your uncle's a false teacher. Your church is a false church. You guys don't have the gospel. We, pulled up to school every day in a Mercedes-Benz. So if you're a pastor's kid and you're rolling to school in a Benz, you kind of got a target on your back, unless your dad's bivocational and owns a really great, thriving business, and then the Benz was from the business. But we were a church family, and so we lived large and in charge, and here we are, we're in ministry. So interestingly enough, I went to a Christian Reformed high school, and so these Reformed kids were saying, my dad says that your church is a false church. My dad said your uncle is a false teacher, and your dad is teaching things that he shouldn't. And those healing services that you guys have every Sunday night, the first Sunday night of every month, those are a bunch of baloney. That's not real. That's false. And I would, like a kid, defend it to the hill and say, you don't know what you're talking about. We have the power. We're anointed. My uncle's an anointed man of God. You guys go to a dead church. You're dead people. So if you were a Baptist, a Lutheran, a Presbyterian, if you were Reformed, if you were anything but us,
Word of Faith,
you were dead. You were a dead church. You were dead
the
Christians,
Pharisees.
the Pharisees, just haters in every sense. And so the news media would come out with things like the Fifth Estate, CBC did that one, and NBC, Dateline did one on my uncle. And those were evidences. In our home, this is the way we looked at it, and I looked at it as a young guy. Those are evidences of Satan trying to bring down our kingdom. He's trying to bring down the Hinn empire, and he's simply trying to penetrate our walls. And so that was fruit in our mind. That's persecution in the same way that, now in the Bible church world, we understand trials to be that, and like places across the world, not really America, but mostly across the world, where you see a lot of persecution for just being a Christian. In a sense, even your life is on the line. For us, the news attacking Uncle Benny and being bullied for being the Hinns was just persecution and trial. So by the time I got to high school, I was looking down the pipeline at playing baseball. That's what I wanted to do in college. I wanted to play professionally. And so I was really not worried too much about the church thing anymore and the friends that were bullying me or what the kids at high school said. But it was really all about baseball. That's what I wanted to do, play baseball. So I end up getting into a school initially, but not before making my vow to God. I wanted him to bless me. I wanted to play baseball in college, but I had to make a deal. Pray, sure. Speak it by faith, yeah. But I had to sow a seed, or in my kind of view of it, I was going to sacrifice and place myself in the service of a man of God to receive the blessing that I wanted to have, which was to play baseball in college. So instead of going right into that college, I took a year off and I worked for Uncle Benny.
So basically you said, God, if you'll help me succeed in college baseball, I'll go give a year of service to Uncle Benny Hinn.
Absolutely. He's a man of God. He's anointed. And I need to go serve him, and then God will bless me. Much like we see today that's taught, give to a man of God, quote unquote, give to the word of faith leader, the holy man, and you'll be blessed in all that you do and receive 100-fold, et cetera, et cetera. So I go and work for him, and my uncle, very kind. I've said this repeatedly now in all the interviews I do. My family, they are kind, they are loving people. My uncle never did me harm. He was never aggressive or rude. He was always generous.
You actually had a close relationship with him.
Absolutely. My uncle and I still love him. He's my uncle. But I loved him and I revered him. I was respectful of him.
You admired him.
Absolutely. In every sense, he was an anointed man of God, and he paid attention to us. He didn't act like he was just all holier than thou with us. He was just gracious to us. So again, this is all about truth. This isn't the smear campaign, the PR spin to get back at my uncle for something. I love him beyond words. He's my uncle, my family, and my father as well. I love him so much. He's my dad, and he and I were best friends. He was so wonderful as a father, affectionate, a kind man, always uplifting with his words, always telling me he's proud of me, that I can do anything I put my mind to. And so these are supportive people.
So this is not personal, it's theological.
Absolutely. And so when I'm working for my uncle, I have that same mindset. I'm going to serve him. This isn't, begrudgingly. I'm excited to work for him. And so we start traveling and flying and enjoying this private plane and enjoying the world and doing ministry. And before you know it, I start to have some pretty deep questions. I had some questions growing up, like, why don't my friends want to come to our church? Because we're always doing healing services. And why don't, my friends really ever want to come back to my church if they do come visit? Because we did a lot of weird stuff. We had some holy water campaigns, and my dad would always lay hands on people, and we were always speaking in tongues, like nonstop, and we'd be yelled at,
nonstop.
Lift up your hands and pray in the Holy Ghost. Pray in the Holy Ghost. Begin to pray in the Spirit. And the whole church would speak in tongues, and you would as a kid, and you were taught to and told to and prayed on and laid hands on to speak in tongues. And so your friends don't want to come back to that. They're going, this is weird, which only gives further evidence now in hindsight to why the tongues in the Bible were known languages, and also they were almost useless if people didn't understand what was going on.
Or an interpreter.
Or an interpreter is present. So yeah, in every sense, my friends wouldn't come back to that craziness. And so, but I'd put those questions aside because, again, you don't speak against a man of God. I revered my uncle and my father. You don't come at them and start saying you're wrong. You simply follow because they are anointed, and maybe God is doing something that you don't understand. That was the approach. Touch not my anointed was another thing. You don't speak against a man of God.
So that scripture was taken out of context.
Absolutely, and in a good way, it taught us to never gossip about Uncle Benny and always be respectful. But in a very harmful way, theologically, it taught us to fear things and never say anything.
Never
about
question
the
anything.
Truth. That's right. So I am working for my uncle. I'm seeing it all. I mean, I'm enjoying it all. We're flying over the Atlantic. I'm eating exotic foods. I'm going to Europe, and we go to India, massive crowds. But I could never reconcile why the healing in the Bible didn't match the healing in the Crusades, and why even the teachings in the Bible didn't always line up with the teachings in the Crusades. But I couldn't figure out what was true north still. So I'd have a thought, think something like, why don't people get healed instantaneously? Why is it kind of this 4-hour service leading up to it? Didn't Jesus just heal instantly in the Bible? And then I thought, well, maybe sometimes people's faith makes it a little hard and it takes a little longer. And so there were just lingering questions that I had. Well, eventually I do my time with Uncle Benny, and I have questions. They're not answered in a sense, and I go on to play baseball in college.
Let me ask you this. What was your job when you were with him?
Oh, I was a catcher, and I assisted my uncle also, so I would carry his bags and assist him on the plane and just help. That's another thing about Uncle Benny, is he was so kind and so generous. I didn't have some, laborious job in which I was a slave. I got an easy job. Travel with him, serve him, support him, help him with checking into his hotel, catch at all the services.
Which means when people are, quote, slaying the spirit, you catch them.
Yeah, you catch them. And, it's interesting at times when some of God's larger children or some of the lost who are larger, there's two of you, or people spin off you and they fall or they fly back. You just kind of put your hands back and go, ooh, and, and sometimes you get waved at, when he would, when he'll say, take it, to even the catchers, and you kind of lay
Let
back
him go.
and let fall, and oh, wow. And it's all just a lot of movement.
And you were doing this for a solid year.
Oh, yeah, a little more actually, yeah, just over a year. And paid me nicely, very kind, and all was well, and lingering questions. But remember, I was unregenerate. I was not saved, truly. I had an understanding of the gospel intellectually, but I was completely not saved. So I was kind of living a double life too. I was enjoying all the finer things in life. By 2006, I was in college playing baseball. The Lord opened the door in my mind. I thought, the Lord opened the door for me to
After
play.
you served the Holy Man for a year, now the doors start opening.
Absolutely. And I met some people. I met Darryl Strawberry on the road with Uncle Benny, and guys like Carl Everett and other old time baseball players. And I just thought, this is so cool that, we're the elite of the faith healing world. You get to meet everybody, and now I'm going to go play baseball too. So I'm driving a Hummer. I got a beautiful black Hummer, chrome package, TV's in it. I mean, I'm balling, and just enjoying the life, prosperity kid. Mm-hmm. And I end up at Dallas Baptist University. Well, when I get there, they're the most kind, loving, gracious people. That, some eyebrows raised. Mm-hmm. I'm a hen, and the truth is, they could have and should have said, "You're too much of a distraction." I don't think so, but no. Coach Dan Hefner, who's the coach there, at the time president, his name was Dr. Gary Cook, just a wonderful, gracious man. And they let me in the school. I get accepted. I'm on the baseball team. Everything's going great. And then I'm part of the Bible study there with the baseball team. Coach Hefner, who's a pretty disciple-making kind of coach, he ends up, leading this thing called the Oaks. And, he's got a pretty prominent, I would say, disciples of Christ first, but baseball prominent family. Mm-hmm. His brother-in-law is Ben Zobrist, who won the World Series for the Cubs, and just a wonderful, wonderful Christian family. They married wonderful Christian gals. Some of the dads are pastors. I mean, full-on good,
solid Bible people.
Solid Bible people. And so they're memorizing scripture, and we're getting the benefit as a baseball team from Coach Hefner's circle of family and people that love the Word of God. And so the Oaks is the Bible study program. We start memorizing scripture. We start going through discipleship, talking about the gospel. And at this time, I'm wrestling with sin. I'm living a double life still. I'm going to the odd party. I'm going out with my friends. I'm doing what I want still. And so there's an immorality for sure in my life. But there's major seeds being planted as well. And then one day, everything comes to a head as far as what I would say is the moment I remember, and I can talk about it like it was yesterday, is right before a game. We're all out in the field, huddle up, and Coach Hefner looks at all of us. So we have some really good players on my team. A few of them are still in the big leagues today. And he says, guys, don't worry about the scouts. Relax. Just play the game. Go out and have fun. And everything we did, it was all for the glory of God. He said, play the game for the glory of God. That's everything about baseball was win or lose, we play for the glory of God. And so I'm going, okay, God's glory, not sure what that means. When I grew up, God's glory was hitting the choir and they would fall. And my uncle would yell fire and the glory would hit everyone. To me, that was glory. Well, Coach Hefner's going, for the glory of God. Okay, for the glory of God, sure. And then he says something I'll never forget. Don't worry about the scouts. God is sovereign. Proverbs says, and he says, the king's heart is like water in the channels of the hand of the Lord. He turns them wherever he wishes. He turns the king's heart, guys. He can control the scouts. He's sovereign. And I thought, sovereignty. Okay, how do I get on the good side of sovereignty?
You'd never heard that before.
Oh, word of faith kid. To me, sovereignty is, okay, God decrees and I get. God decrees and I'm the benefactor. I speak it and God does it. That's sovereignty, is that he works for me. His providence, I didn't even know what providence was. I would have thought provision, yes. God's favor, yes. I knew all those terms.
Name it and claim it.
Name it and claim it.
Prosperity gospel.
Sovereignty, though? No. So I kind of get wrecked, and I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. The wires don't fire, nothing connects, but I'm going, okay, sovereignty. So there's something there, though. Okay, I let it go. Go through the following year, I finish out, I graduate from DBU, and that moment stays with me. I meet a girl when I graduate named Christine. Start dating her. She's now my wife. I'll give you the spoiler alert. But she is just a wonderful, wonderful young woman. She's 21. She's going to Azusa Pacific. New convert, learning, really growing in her faith just from being in classes, and came to an understanding of her desire and her sin and her desire to know more about Jesus Christ and serve him and commit her life to him. And so she's just a baby convert. No idea how to grow, though, in discipleship. Like many new converts, they need help. And so we start dating, and as a young man, I'm able to teach her a lot of the basics. I teach her about the gospel. I teach her about the Trinity. I know these things because I grew up in church. And, there's some additions to the word of faith theology. I wasn't going into the Satan's nature on, Jesus taking on Satan's nature on the cross, any of the heresies, or, explaining to her that, well, God, Jesus wasn't really fully God. He did his miracles as a man, like some of the word of faith heresies.
And that's some of the things we have on video of your uncle teaching.
Oh, absolutely.
That Jesus came to earth as a man, later became God, went to hell as a man, defeated Satan as a man.
He was born again.
Yes, born again. Bill Johnson teaches that, as you're going to have.
Kenneth Copeland's another one.
Yeah, and by the way, Costi has a book, and in this book he'll have things where he's exposing Jesus culture, word of faith, Bill Johnson, and those sort of things.
Yeah, we'll try to explain it to people really well. So I'm, helping her out understand the basics of faith, but I don't know all the heresies like we've mentioned, and kind of the stuff that is in error. I'm just teaching her the basics, and so she's learning and growing. But what was about to happen was I was going to start learning and growing. My family was not really supportive of the relationship, and here's why. I told them I'm seeing a nice gal and would like to introduce them, and they said, "Is she spirit-filled?" I said, "Oh, don't start with that. Come on, guys. Spirit-filled? Oh, yes, she's spirit-filled." Because at conversion, we all get the Holy Spirit. I graduated from the Baptist school. I knew that at least. And, for me, I was at the point, too. No more tongues without interpretation.
Were your parents, by the way, not worried? You're going to Baptist school? You're going to...
So that was the joke, too. I came home from DBU. The joke in our home, being funny with family, it was, you guys, no more tongues without interpretation. And they joked and they said, "Oh no, the Baptists ruined you." And I remember having a great conversation with my Uncle Benny when he found out I was going to DBU. And he said, Costi, the Baptists teach a solid word. If I wasn't, a charismatic, I'd be a Baptist. They teach a solid word. That's what he told me. I actually never told you that. He's friends with Jerry Falwell. I mean, everybody knew the Baptists.
Didn't some of the kids go to Liberty University?
Well, one of the Crouch kids went to Liberty. We all were going to go to ORU.
But none of Benny's kids went there.
No one went to Liberty, but they went to Oral Roberts. But there was a good relationship there in that it was kind of like, okay, the Baptists teach pretty solid, and you're going to get Bible. And so we even had friends tell my parents, Costi's grown up in such a prominent family. He's going to graduate now from the Baptist school, and he'll have the best of both worlds. That's what they were kind of prophesying even over me, saying, he's going to have the Spirit and the Word and truth. He's going to be a great man of God and all that stuff. Little do they know, the truth is more powerful than whatever else I was in. And so all of a sudden, I'm kind of wrestling with these things, but still trying to stay respectful and cordial with my family. And all of a sudden, it comes down to a relationship. My parents say, basically, she's not spirit-filled. She doesn't speak in tongues. Now, they later have since changed their position. I've talked to them about this since, and they now do not believe tongues is evidence of salvation or essential for salvation. But at the time, they did, and that's what was...
And they didn't want you marrying your current wife?
Absolutely not. She didn't speak in tongues. Her family, my father-in-law is a wonderful man, vice president of an ironworker company, just the best, most kind guy. We love to hunt together, him and I, and my mother-in-law's a sweetheart, but they weren't exactly, cut from the Hinn royal cloth. And, my family had other ideas. They wanted me to marry a gal that was a little more like them, with parents that were more like them, with a heritage more like ours, and we were off to be second generation superstars. And so I break up with my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, break up with her and tell her, I just don't think you're my wife. I just don't think you're from God, was really the second line I said. I'll never forget it. We were in a parking lot, sitting there talking. I was dropping her off, and it was like the end of the date, and that was it. And, about a month later, I just couldn't do it. I told my mom, I can't. I'm just not going to go marry some gal that you think that to please all you people. I'm done. Christine is the one for me. And so I go back and I have lunch with Christine, and she's so gracious. And she says, Costi, I think you were going to learn this lesson anyway in life. I'll never forget it. And she says, I'm so glad that you called me and decided that, you wanted to talk again with me. But I just think you needed to learn that you need to stand on your own 2 feet. And you need to make up your mind and be a man for yourself and not just do whatever your family has told you or taught you to do. You need to be your own man. And again, that was another pivotal moment. So the sovereignty of God, be my own man, stand up for something. And so all of a sudden, my parents get on board a little bit, but we're going to bring Christine to Uncle Benny's service. So she goes to the Good Friday service, and we're going to lay hands on her, and she's going to kind of get what we have. Because basically, as parents, many of you parents may be watching know, if you can't beat them, join them. If you can't get your kid to not want to marry somebody, sooner or later, you just got to give in and love them and try to have some sort of relationship. But along the way, the plan was to fix her up. So
they bring her to one of your uncle's meetings for him to lay hands on her.
Oh, absolutely. So, and then my dad, and there's other laying hands moments, and bless her heart, she tried so hard. She did everything she was supposed to do. She fell when she got her, put her little hands in the air, and she fell and tipped over on her little heels, and her
trying to be slain in the spirit.
Oh yeah, trying to be slain in the spirit, which she now, to be fair to her, she describes as a very, very she used the word creepy, just a weird feeling, almost demonic. So I've never really said that.
But she was a believer at that point.
She was. And here's what if you ask me now, well, what do you think that was? Real simple. A believer in that environment is going to feel really, really weirded out.
And under conviction.
And under conviction. This is not of God. This is darkness. This is not light. I don't belong here. A sheep is going to say, no way is this the shepherd's voice. And no way is this the shepherd's fold. So, but I was very used to it. I just thought,
and you were not a believer at this point.
No, we're supposed to fall. Okay. And when she fell, I teared up and was like, oh, she's getting it. Maybe she'll come around and everyone will be happy. I just wanted everyone to be happy, everyone to be peaceful, everyone to get along. And so then it was the tongues kind of portion, and we went to this little conference and youth conference and had a good time. And there's a woman there at the end, kind of does an altar call and begins saying, well, just lift up your voice and just begin praying in the Spirit, and just open up your lips, move, say whatever comes to your tip of your tongue, just and she starts doing all that stuff.
Trying to teach her how to speak in tongues.
To all these kids at the front, my wife is there, I'm there, and my wife, again, bless her little heart. She doesn't mind me telling this because it's the truth. Her hands in the air, and she just learned, to raise her hands as a sign of surrender and sense, but, some of the people in our circle made it really weird. Everyone's shaking and doing weird stuff. And she had her little hands up in the air, and she's trying. I look over, and her little chin is moving. She's trying to speak in tongues. And in the moment, I'm thinking, wow, I think she's getting it. This is going to work. Wait till my parents find out. She speaks in tongues. Now what? I'm going to marry this. Right? Problem solved. I'm going to marry this gal. You can't stop me, the whole bit, A typical son. I'm going to marry her. You tell Romeo he can't have Juliet.
You want her more.
So I'm going to get her spirit-filled, tongue-talking, spirit-filled, and then everyone will be happy. Well, some time goes on, and she just isn't getting it, and she's just not. She's not happy about it. She doesn't feel like it's right. It's not coming naturally. Everything is so taught and so forced. Well, like a good convert, which I believe, yeah, of course, she was converted for sure, truly. She's looking at the scriptures. She's feeling conviction. Poor girl, though, doesn't know the word yet. No one's discipled her, really. But discernment, conviction, the Holy Spirit, that's enough for a believer to go, I don't know what it is, I don't know every verse, but this isn't right. So she's pushing back, and then one day she comes to me. She kind of figured something out and says, Costi, I think I'm okay. Didn't the Apostle Paul, maybe I can show you this. Didn't he say something about not all having to speak in tongues? I thought, oh, maybe, I don't know, let's talk. So we go to the end of 1 Corinthians 12, and she shows me that, and I begin to understand further, and some things started to come back from what I learned at DBU, and various points of that last, probably would have been about 4 or 5 year span, that seeds had been planted in my life. And I began to realize, okay, Paul did say, not all, the end of 1 Corinthians 12, speak in tongues, do they? Not all have gifts of interpretation, not all have gifts of healing, etc. It goes on. She was right. The scriptures were right. So I pushed back against that. And at the end of the day, my family just, it wasn't enough, because that's the doctrine that we had. That's the lineage, it's the attachment. And I was starting to become different, which that was not okay. We were like mafia style ministry. I mean, you don't talk about family, you don't leave the family. Blood is thicker than water, blood is thicker than doctrine, all of that stuff. You just don't turn your back on family. I never knew Jesus' words in Matthew 10 that he came to bring a sword, not peace, that he would turn father against son, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. I had never really thought much about Matthew 12, who are my mother and my brothers, those who do hear the will of God and do it. So for me, the scriptures started to come to life, and it was my now wife that helped. So we're doing ministry in Canada. Questions are starting to come up, and the storm is brewing. And my wife was going through a lot, of course, with my family. When there's doctrine issues, that divides. It's really difficult. So I had a friend of mine from California call me up, say, hey, we were both big hockey fans. So I'm Canadian, so he loves hockey too. And he said, how's it going up there, buddy? I said, terrible. My wife can't speak in tongues. She's fallen and feeling weird things. It's just not going well. I'm trying to help with the church. My dad and I we got differences. He's a little older, and I'm trying to revive this thing. I got a vision for where we're going to end up, and I'm young, and it's not going well at all. And he said, hey, I'm going to tell you something. Don't hit me when you see me, okay? This might hurt. I said, all right. He said, you need to stop trying to be your dad's hero and stop trying to be your dad's church savior, and stop trying to revive this thing and start being your future wife's hero. Start focusing on your first ministry. That's what he said. He said, she's your first ministry. And that hit me right between the eyes, and I realized it was time to make a change. I didn't know what I was going to do. I prayed though and asked the Lord for direction. Had no clue. I told my wife, I'm willing to go anywhere. I'm willing to do anything that honors you as my wife. And I go to Ephesians 5. I go to 1 Peter 3. And I look up in the Bible where it talks about how you should treat your wife. If you are a believer, of course I thought I was. And so I realized first ministry, that's the first time I ever heard those terms, that a family is your first ministry. I didn't grow up that way. Though my dad dated my mom, and they have a good marriage, but my uncle and some of the drive there was all about ministry. Ministry was the mistress, really. So family just wasn't first, ministry was. And so that was a whole new paradigm. And then as the Lord was working, of course, the church calls, that church in California that I had some friends at, calls me a week later and says, hey, we got a youth pastor spot open. You want to come be the youth pastor? We can pay you a few $100 a month. It's not much. You need to get a job. You can't support a wife on that. And so, but come on. We jump at it, and we left Canada, left ministry with my family. And I get to this church plant that's cool, V-necks and skinny jeans. I mean, we're all California.
Seeker sensitive.
Yeah, nothing wrong with V-necks and skinny jeans, but we were very seeker sensitive. And sure enough, we had a lot in store. It was called Moment Church. That's how it planted. I got there about a year after the plant started. And so everything was really fresh. And we're very ecumenical. And so we got involved with this local rescue mission. Can I tell all this?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
We get involved with this local rescue mission. And, we're church at the mission, and we're preaching. And we start to get a little bit expository, but we're still kind of ecumenical. So right at that point, still in that first year I'm there, I get the chance to preach a sermon. So you can imagine the amount of things that are going on. There's changes, but not big ones yet. And my pastor says, hey, we're going through the book of John. We had started to go through book studies. I think that's how we were kind of getting introduced to verse by verse.
So you're starting to transition from being a seeker-sensitive church to the pastors questioning whether this is really a biblical model, and you're starting to kind of move toward expository Bible teaching.
And it started with the preaching, you're right. We were very topical. And then our teaching pastor started to move a little bit more towards exposit. We're going to go through a book, so we're going to go through John. But the church was still, we were social justice, ecumenical.
Very young church.
The church, our slogan was Church at the Mission after we changed from Moment. We were Church at the Mission because we were at a rescue mission, serving Jesus and the least, last, and lost. It was real cool. I mean, we might as well build wells in Africa.
Right.
And,
Total social justice.
Oh, everybody was on board. It was so cool. And then we're going to put churches at rescue missions. It's this really neat thing. Never mind ecclesiology, that the church is not just the least, last, and lost. It's also the first found and the rich. It's the black, the white, it's the Asian, it's everybody. But we were focusing on one niche, and that made us cool. And ironically, none of us were poor or homeless, and but we were calling the church that. And yet, in the midst of that, suddenly expository preaching, which I'll add a side plug here for the pulpit ministry in churches. You wonder why a weak pulpit will lead to a weak church? It's because preaching is the way God designed the church to thrive. You need a strong pulpit so the sheep can be fed and that church can be strong. If you don't exposit the scriptures, you're all over the map topically, you're just kind of winging it and proof texting all the time. That does nothing for anyone. The sheep will be malnourished. It's like feeding your kids fast food. They're going to grow up and have diabetes and problems. You got to feed them good food, and good solid food comes from rightly dividing the word, verse by verse expository preaching. So we need men of God in the pulpits who love the scriptures. Well, that's where it all starts for us. He's preaching in the book of John. We're still a little hip and ecumenical, but I get the chance to preach, and I've got to preach John 5, the healing at the pool of Bethesda. Now, I've asked my pastor, he said it wasn't a setup. To this day, it wasn't, hey, have the Hinn kid preach on healing. Let's see what happens. It was just, it's your shot, man. You're up. And so while I'm studying, I have no idea how to study except to try to gather a bunch of information, convey the text appropriately, illustrate well, shed light on it. Spurgeon always said illustrations are like a window on the sermon. They just shed light on the point. You don't need to add much more. And my pastor comes over and tosses a John MacArthur commentary on my desk and says, this will help. It'll kind of keep you in line. You'll be just, read that, get the breadth of the text, understand the depth of it, kind of move through it and understand it. The commentary will help you with that. Big introductions and all that kind of stuff. You start to get the idea, Greek words and all of the above. Well, in studying that, this is where I believe my conversion took place. I'm reading through it, and MacArthur has a line in his commentary, and he writes, the man didn't know who Jesus was. When the Pharisees went and asked him, who told you can pick up your pallet and walk? The man didn't know who Jesus was. And he says, therein is the cruelest lie of faith healers today, that if you just have enough faith, you'll get healed. Well, that blew my mind. I was absolutely shocked. I thought, what? Oh my goodness. We're wrong. We, meaning the Hinns, my family, what we teach, we're wrong. There's not an argument about sign gifts and cessationism and continuous and all. This is just, we're wrong about lying to people and putting burdens on them that if you just have enough faith, God will heal you. That was flat out wrong, and it was the first time I'd ever been faced with that.
Because the man was healed without even knowing who Jesus was.
Well, that's the whole point, is he didn't know who Jesus was. And then other things started to stick out. You talk about illumination. That's why I really believe it was my conversion experience. Regeneration is dead heart awakened. Ephesians 2, we're dead in our trespasses. I was dead, and then Scripture starts to make sense, and it's illuminated. I remember moving through the text, even this same Bible, it's on the left side of the column. And in the top left-hand side of John 5, as it starts, the multitude were there. I went, multitude. There's one guy that got healed. We used to always tell people, it's always God's will to heal everybody. God will heal everybody. God heals all. God can heal all. And yes, God is a healer, and he still heals. But that also kind of came to light And so illumination was happening there.
Because in the text, one guy was healed, even though there were many sick. Only one guy was healed.
So was Jesus hateful and unloving to the others, or is he sovereign in healing? And it hit me, what Coach Hefner said, sovereignty. I went, uh-oh.
So God can choose to heal someone, as he does today. Someone has a cancer screening, they got cancer, people are praying, they go back, all of a sudden there's no cancer. They can't explain it, but God did it. No, Benny Hinn didn't do it, Kenneth Copeland didn't do it, but God can do a miracle. Salvation's a miracle.
Amen.
So you don't doubt, I don't doubt miracles. We just don't believe that there are prophets or apostles or miracle workers and men today.
That's right, no one's wielding it.
Yes.
Otherwise, they'd wield it like men teach, or they'd wield it like somebody is merciful. I mean, you just, if you're merciful, you're merciful. It's a spiritual gift, and you're a kind, compassionate person. Wielding is, you can fling it around. You got healing. You just walk into a hospital. Name of Jesus Christ, healed. Boom, instant. Up.
And yet they're not doing that.
They're not. So that's not the sign gifts. Does God heal? Yes, but you're right. It's not a wielding of these gifts. So that just wrecks me. And then there was another thing on that point. As I noticed in the text, Jesus heals the man instantly. Rise and walk. Get up. Take your pallet. And this guy, so I thought, no, we do 4-hour services. We have to have atmosphere. We have to have long music. We have to line them up. We have to say, God's going to touch you tonight. We don't need to do the 4-hour lead-in if we really got the gifts of healing and we're really healing people. That's got to be false too. So I began to look through the scriptures and see continually Jesus healing instant. Only time in Mark, remember, he has to heal prays for the blind guy twice, and then what does he do? He goes and teaches his disciples something about it. He prayed for the man twice for a purpose, to teach something. That's the exception, though. That's not the norm. The norm was Jesus always healed instantly. That was false in our world. We did not do that. Those 3 things, I began weeping. I have to preach this sermon in 3 days after that. I was a wreck. I don't even remember the sermon. I think I was just yelling the whole time. And some young guy going, and the cruelest lie of faith healers today. I'm plagiarizing MacArthur or whoever I can find. I'm looking guys up and I'm like, it's all a lie and it's false. God is sovereign in healing. And I'm getting, the preacher in me's coming out. And I remember there was an elder. His name was Jared Belts. There was an elder sitting on my right-hand side. I remember just looking at me. And he was smiling. And I think whether the elders of the church or there's Pastor Tony who had me preach, the prayers of those men, the guidance of those men, they're just smiling, kind of like we've enjoyed our weekend this weekend, just sharing together as brothers, watching, in that case it was me. There was nothing special though. I was just another sheep.
But they're seeing this transformation in your life.
And we're all together just watching as God is doing something in my life, in all of our lives, in the church. And it's a microcosm of what's happening on a larger scale. So why I also say that was my conversion experience. You talk about the fruit and the evidence of salvation. I wanted nothing more to do with the word of faith. I didn't know who any of you guys were. I didn't know anything except I don't want that. That's false. I want what the word says. I want what Jesus actually did. I want what the New Testament actually taught. I want to know my role and do it. I'm not an apostle. I'm not going to be an apostle. I'm not a prophet. I'm not going to be a prophet. What does the New Testament command of me, a disciple of the disciples, a result of those founding apostles? What's my role?
How did your family respond to all this?
Mixed, because we were still in good relationship then, because I wasn't yet in the full understanding I am now of the heresy. I just knew we were wrong.
So now that you are, and you're now doing this broadcast, and you just recorded 12 30-minute programs with Justin Peters. You are on our program today on 35 stations plus live.
Yeah.
And it'll go out to 175,000 people on email alert. Your family clearly knows you've been, and you did some interviews with Justin already that we carried on our network. So clearly your family knows what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
How are they responding to that?
Well, again, I said earlier, blood is thicker than water. And, for my family, it's not okay that I'm standing up for truth publicly. My ministry is not built around, I'm the anti-Benny guy, or I'm the anti-charismatic guy, or the anti-anything guy. I'm a pastor now. So I preach the truth and I refute error.
So your parents they're trying to see this as what you want your parents to see is this isn't about Benny or your family last name. This is about truth. It
it's
just
about
happened.
1 Timothy 3. Just look at the list. So if Uncle Benny were to call me and say, what are you doing, Costi? Why are you saying all this stuff? I'd say, Uncle Benny, let's just go to 1 Timothy 3, look at the qualifications of a pastor, and let's just go through the list. Above reproach, so we got to deal with that. Husband of one wife, we got to deal with that. Temperate, able to teach. So we just go through all the lists, and then I would go through other things like Paul's instructions to Timothy, preach the word. Okay, I got to preach the word. Rebuke, got to rebuke. Refute, exhort. I would begin going through the list, then I'd go to Romans 16, 17, and 18. I have to mark those who cause dissensions with their teaching. I'm a pastor now, or we got to be real pastors if we're pastors. So you got to train, you got to study, you got to know your doctrines, you got to be able to. Why? Because Hebrews 13, 17 says that the people are to obey their leaders, those who are over them in the Lord, and submit to them because they keep watch over their souls. Wow, what a responsibility. I got to give an account one day.
So this is now about people's souls, not about your family reputation.
Absolutely. And naturally with family, maybe a lot of people listening are going through this, family takes it personal.
Yeah.
Like it's a personal attack. It's not. It's
and as I said earlier, this is not personal, this is theological.
Simply about the truth. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's been a challenge. And some people, kind of wonder, well, what level are you associating? Because, 2 John 9 through 11, no greeting and no hospitality. And, Paul said avoid them. The reality is with certain family members, complete avoidance is necessary. I don't see my uncle. I don't.
But that spirit, that 2 John 9 to 11, don't give them, don't even greet them. That's a spiritual greeting of solidarity.
Yeah.
Meaning you're in a spiritual enterprise or you're spiritually agree with what they're saying and doing and teaching.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean you can't have dinner or a meal with your mother and father or some of your cousins or something.
And especially too, the interactions I do have
are private often.
With my mom and dad, private, and we talk about these things.
Yes.
And I don't want to put anyone on blast in my family, but I will tell you this. It might surprise some people. I'm getting responses from family members now saying, listen, we've seen all the stuff you're doing. Please understand, we don't believe all that anymore.
So some of your family members, not talking about Benny here, but some of your family members are starting to examine what you're saying and are starting to say, we're starting to agree with some of what you're saying.
Take it easy on saying too much about everyone. We agree with you. We don't think people should be talking about family, but I guess you get asked the questions because your last name. But so my hope is, we're going to.
So their issue isn't for some of your family with the truth. The issue is with the fact that the family's being talked about.
Well, yeah, because it can be embarrassing for people. But at the end of the day, what do you want to do? You want to look Jesus in the eye one day and hear, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness, while you say, Lord, Lord. Or do you want to stare him in the eye, his eyes of fire, after he returns? And literally as he looks and pierces through your soul, if that's the case, I think of the illustration of facing Christ and say, I didn't care what embarrassment I faced. I didn't care what people thought. I didn't care about my last name. I cared about your name. That's what I want. So it can be embarrassing for all of us with our families and kind of some of the issues. People say, man, that family's a mess.
But this could be the same whether if you're a Catholic watching and now you have a family member who's become a Bible-believing Christian who believes in what the Bible teaches about Jesus and what is salvation and what is repentance, and they're now refuting the false teaching of the Church of Rome.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing to the Catholic family that's been in the Catholic family for generations and is part of their heritage and lineage. So whether you're Word of Faith or Catholic or someone who's come out of the Mormon false teaching that's now a believer, so what you're really saying is really something that all those people could learn from if they're come out of false teaching, regardless of what it is, and are now still dealing with family, they're still caught in that false teaching.
Absolutely. It's embarrassing, it's difficult, it's challenging. But we also need to separate, too, our family members that are following false teaching and caught in it. I got help because there were relationships. If people would have said, no, you're a Hinn. If my coach would have said, oh, no, 2 John 9 to 11, no greeting for you, Hinn kid, and took it wrong, who would have helped me? I wasn't a false teacher. I was a follower. So you're right. Family members, too, we got to stand for truth, not worry about embarrassment, not worry about what everyone thinks, and not also just cut everyone off. We maintain a level of relationship so that we can reach out to them. But as I said, I do keep complete arm's distance. I do not call my uncle and just shoot the breeze. He's false teaching, and I think he knows on some level. But with my dad and mom, most of the family that followed him into this, I'm keeping relationship on some level for the purpose of evangelism.
Absolutely.
We have to.
Absolutely.
We have to. So, just a couple weeks ago, I talked with my parents, and it was a good conversation. It was gospel centered, and that was it. And I'm just praying for them, and I love them. They love me. But and then I got some other family members that are heavily involved with Bethel. We don't really speak.
You're talking about Bethel Church in Redding, California. Bill Johnson.
Absolutely.
Jesus Culture and New Apostolic Reformation.
Yes, they're in tight. I got another family member working with Todd White. A lot of these guys that are doing this stuff, and they, that's where I think they've all like blocked me on social media. They don't want to talk to me more than anything, but if they wanted to ask questions, I just open my doors to them, and then come by my office. We go for lunch. I pick up the phone anytime for somebody who wants to say, "Can we talk? I need help," or "I got some questions. Can you offer answers?" And we can just talk about God's word. I think Scripture endorses that.
Absolutely.
Evangelize. Jude said, "Snatch them. Have mercy on some." There at the end of Jude, a brand snatched from the burning. This is a rescue operation.
Let me ask you a few lightning round questions in the minutes we have left. Just quick questions, quick answers, because I think, again, for many of our folks, this is all new to them, and they've got a million questions. And any of you don't feel comfortable asking, just say so, and we can edit it out.
Sure.
What drives many of these false teachers, you think, whether it's Joyce Meyer or your uncle or Kenneth Copeland, what do you think drives them? Is it money? Is it fame? Do they really believe what they're teaching?
Money, power, and then darkness. So some of them, I believe, and the Scripture teaches this, that there are those that are deceiving and being deceived. 2 Peter 2, the entire chapter is about false teachers. Jude, the whole book.
About apostasy, Jude is.
Jude is all about apostasy. I mean, that false professors, false teachers, false prophets disguised as workers of righteousness. So darkness appoints, they're destined to it. Darkness appoints some of them. They do it because they're under the demonic control.
They've been given over.
Absolutely. Romans 1, given over to all of it. And then power and money would be the other two things. I would just say that's always been the downfall of humanity. It's involved in politics, involved in everything in
the
life.
flesh.
That's right.
Loving the world system.
Absolutely. So those would be the three: money, power, and then darkness.
Have you seen anyone in all your years around this? You ever seen anyone healed?
No, not organically, and
meaning by some individual.
Yes, and not at the hands of someone wielding a sign gift. But again, like you and like many people, I've seen cancers disappear, go in remission, doctors dumbfounded. I've seen women who are barren, suddenly pregnant. Seen God do remarkable, providential
but all done
things.
by the great physician.
All done by the great physician, and
sovereignly as He wills.
Yep, and people praying, "Lord, Your will be done," and His will is done. But never.
What about raising the dead? Ever seen that?
Never seen anyone raised from the dead. Heard lots of stories of people being raised from the dead. Never verified. Always a grand story, though, with a big applause. But never once. Lots of stories, though.
In those series you did with Justin, which we'll be releasing over the next few weeks, you're going to deal with some of the things like touch not God's anointed. We should be doing greater works than Jesus. You're going to go through theologically all that with Justin in those 12 30-minute programs, right?
Yes.
So theologically, you're going to be digging into a lot of this, refuting a lot of the Word of Faith teaching theologically with Justin.
Yes, and one of the key things we answer is, and we get this a lot, why is Bethel dangerous? Why is Bill Johnson and the New Apostolic Reformation heretical?
Which is picking up a ton of kids.
Yes.
And this includes IHOP and Mike Bickle.
Yeah, I'm a millennial. I'm seeing it like crazy in my generation. It's emotion, it's music, and we love our music. We love emotion. We want to, we don't want to be all cold and dry.
It's also a spiritual salve.
And so that's what sucks us in, is the millennials are going, yeah, this looks real, it looks really fun, and then all of a sudden the bait and switch is, oh, here's our heretical teacher. So we answer the big question in one of the segments, what does Bill Johnson teach and why is it heretical? And I quote him from his books, from his teaching, and we'll answer that question.
And you're working on a book on this topic too.
Yeah, my teaching pastor and I, Pastor Anthony Wood, him and I were co-authoring a book that comes out this fall called Defining Deception. And we've got a great team that's been involved with editing. We're being vetted through everything, but we've written it from cover to cover and are just going to answer the big questions about the third wave and help people understand why this is deception, help define it, and then hopefully many people will be helped.
And that would be Peter Wagner's third wave that Peter Wagner taught.
Absolutely.
What about people that are in the Word of Faith that are watching this? Because I know this is going to get out there and go around. What would you say to someone who's being skeptical and trying in their mind to refute you? What would you say to the Word of Faith person listening right now?
Man, from experience, I would say that we were wrong. We were. That Jesus didn't take Satan's nature. That Jesus was fully man and fully God. The scriptures teach that clearly. He didn't do miracles as a man in right relationship with God. He did his miracles as fully God. I would also say that we need to understand this is not a debate. It's not about ego. This isn't about continuationists and cessationists and all the classical debates. I would rather have fellowship with somebody who just came out of the Word of Faith movement and just said, okay, but I'm not parting ways with the charismata. I'll be an open but cautious charismatic, but they abandoned the false teachings about Christ.
So this isn't about because you now don't believe in speaking in tongues. What you're saying is, as do I have friends that are Pentecostal or charismatic that totally reject the Word of Faith in NAR. They totally reject that.
Absolutely.
And I still have fellowship with them on the essential salvific issues.
That's right.
So this isn't about you winning a debate over tongues or gifts. This is about the false teaching of redefining Jesus, redefining the gospel, those things that happen within the Word of Faith.
That's right. I say come back to my Word of Faith, friends. I say come back to the orthodox circles of Christianity. If you were to tighten that circle up, things like the virgin birth, the deity of Christ, the inerrancy of Scripture, proper soteriology, understanding salvation, all those things. The kenosis, you talk about Christ emptying himself. Come back to orthodoxy. And
don't teach things like Jesus had to be born again.
That's right.
Which is what we see Bill Johnson and your uncle teaching.
That's the deity of Christ.
Yes.
The Trinity. Don't mess with the Trinity. I would say come back to the circles that are orthodox. And then outside, if you had concentric circles, outside of that, okay, let's talk about, eschatology, or let's talk about the sign gifts.
But get the essentials
right.
Come
back to the essentials and we get fellowship. The assemblies of God, you got to remember this, their ties with Bethel and Bill Johnson are over. My uncle got his papers revoked. John Wimber and the Vineyard Association of Churches booted the Toronto Airport Church in 1994 with John Arnott, the Toronto Blessing, all that revival stuff. They didn't like that. So we can't lump every Pentecostal and charismatic into this category.
That's right.
So that's also my encouragement to the Word of Faithers that are attached to a more mysterious or more outworking of the Holy Spirit's kind of revelatory work still today. And we could talk about those issues another time, but just come back to an understanding that there's still many good people that are continuist, that are not heretical. Just come out of the heresy, come back into the fold, and there's other conversations.
Open the Bible and read it in context.
Amen. I mean, that's what I would say.
Because that's what convinced you, is reading the Bible in context.
The Bible in context, it's amazing.
Well, the Holy Spirit convinced you with the washing of the water and the Word, the Spirit and the Word together, but it was that you were studying the Bible in context.
The Word
and the Holy
of
Spirit
God.
used that.
The Word of God, the work of the Holy Spirit, absolutely. And then the people of God being there to help me.
What would you say about people, if you go back and watch our stuff, you'll see that we never mocked your uncle.
Yeah.
We never mocked him. We never called him names. We would refute him theologically.
Absolutely.
Would you say that's one thing Christians need to concentrate on, is contending for the faith without being sarcastic and smart alecks and mean-spirited?
Yes. There's a lot of talk today about, the reformers were very, with polemics, the reformers they had an edge to them. Nothing wrong with having an edge. Nothing wrong with being frustrated about the falsities that are out there. But, yeah, I would say in the Christian, especially the online world, we need to do a really good job. I'm a younger guy, so I'm watching all the older guys I'm following, okay? And what I often see is, a lot of banter about, who did this and who hung out with who and who took a picture with who on Twitter or Facebook. It's all wasted time. When I started standing for truth, and my hope is, and I meet guys like you and others that, I see we're hunting down heresy, and then not dying on the wrong hills. So ecclesiology, methodology, things like that. If you have a drummer and your music's loud and we all wear suits and sing our hymns with no drummer, let it go. We don't need to bark over methods.
Right.
Stick to doctrine, stick to orthodox doctrines. Let's knock down some of these heretical giants in the Word of Faith and prosperity movements. And let's not, clickbait is what I've learned.
Right,
I didn't know
yeah.
about that
Clickbait.
5 months ago.
Yep.
Clickbait is
They're
putting
looking to
out-
get more traffic, so they get more Google ads clicked on, they make money. So they
Yeah.
get very provocative.
That's right.
And that's one thing we've always tried to stay away from. We've had a lot of off-camera conversations
Yeah.
the last few days about some of this. That we want to be respectful, and we want, if your uncle or anyone sees the things we talk about, we want them to see that, House doesn't call me names. He doesn't mock me.
That's right.
He disagrees with me. He goes to the scripture. But we want to be a place where someone, even like your uncle, could see it and say, I want to listen to what he's saying. I want to see why he disagrees with me.
right.
And be convicted by the truth of the scripture,
Yeah.
not distracted because we're being cute and sarcastic and calling people names.
That's right.
We would hope that our programs reach even the people we're talking about. But why would they want to listen to us if we're treating them with disrespect?
Yeah, you can't mock people and sit there making fun of them. You can't be too clever. You just have to stick to the heresy. In my mind, I always think, hit the heresy. That's what I want my bullseye
Because
to
the
be.
men that ministered to you did that through the scripture. They weren't mocking your family, mocking your name, making fun of you. They loved you and just simply taught truth to you.
And they were still firm and clear. I mean, my pastor was like, asked me a clear question. He goes, do you really believe that? I mean, come on. Think, Costi. Use your mind. At some points. Others, it was, so tell me what do you think was happening there? And he would put his hand on his chin. What do you think was going on? He would let me come to a discovery. And what you see a lot is just stone throwing.
And folks, Costi's going to be with us as a keynote speaker at our Ozarks Worldview Weekend in 2018. We just finished up last weekend. A week ago tonight, we were at our 2017 Ozarks Worldview Weekend. We've booked him as a keynote speaker for 2018. He's also going to speak to the young people, the high school students, the college students on Jesus culture, Bill Johnson, that whole thing, because the young people have asked us to bring in a speaker on that. So he'll be there and a part of that. You can find out more at wvwtv.com/Ozarks, wvwtv.com/Ozarks. But we wanted to bring you this program, introduce you to Costi. He's submitting columns to our website. He'll be a frequent guest on our radio show as he was today, as issues come up. He's not got just one topic. He's an expository Bible teacher. Yes, he's going to cover this topic for a year or two, write some books on it, but then he's going to move on. When things come up, he'll come back to it. But this guy, he has waters that run deep, and they're theological waters. And so you're going to be hearing a lot from him as we encourage him in his ministry. And I'm 48, he's 32. These are the kind of young men we want to use the platforms God has given to us, be good stewards, and introduce you and to his ministry and others like him. Because as I was telling him over dinner, that's one of the things we want to be known for when we come to end of life is not how many books did we sell, but how many ministries did we help launch? How many people did we disciple and encourage and help leave the church with more leaders to take our places? And I think you're looking at one of them right here. So pray for him, pray for his family, even pray for his uncle Benny, as he calls him. You know him as Costi Hinn. Pray for him that the Holy Spirit would work in his life, that truth would be revealed to him. We don't know what God's plan is for him, but God can certainly bring him to a point of understanding what he's been teaching and saying is wrong, and that would be wonderful. God doesn't need celebrities. He doesn't need us, but he does use us, and we're thankful God's using Costi. So pray for him, pray for his family, and then come and meet him in person, and bring your young person to hear his Bible teaching on exposing one of the most popular, fast-growing movements today, this new apostolic reformation teaching of Bill Johnson, Jesus culture, International House of Prayer, and many others. So Costi, thank you for being with us. And also we wanted to do this so folks, you get ready to watch these 12 30-minute programs that Justin spent in this studio. We fly Justin in, we flew in Costi, we put him up in a hotel. We don't charge them anything to produce these programs. We do this because we believe in what's happening in the world today needs to be exposed in light of biblical truth. So if you appreciate our broadcast ministry and what we're doing, this is the fruit of it. We bring these guys in, we give them a platform, we produce their shows, we post it, edit them and distribute them all free of charge because we believe we need to provide resources like this. And we believe God is providentially using using Costi to talk about something like his Uncle Benny that has become so popular today because he has credibility to speak on this as someone who's been on the front row. And he's really validating a lot of what we've been saying. And a lot of people will listen to you that would never listen to me. And we pray that God will continue to use that truth.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for paving the way. I'm just standing on your guys' shoulders and thankful to be a part.
You're kind, but we're standing on someone else's shoulders as well. So we're all helping each other.
Amen.
All right, folks, if you appreciate the program, send this link on to a friend, won't you? At wvwtv.com. Till next time, I'm Brandon House. Thanks for watching. Take care.